Welcome to Infinite Banter Podcast with DJ Soundwave. We have reached the 200th show. Y'all get ready to have a wonderful time. Piff Penny.
Here it is, another episode, the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter Podcast. What is going on? My name is Mark Jolliffe, a.k.a. DJ Soundwave, or as past guest Lou Temple called me, DJ Boombox. Shout out to him. And shout out to all the guests that have been on this show. 200 episodes. It's just crazy. When I sit back and think about it, it's like, man, that's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication, a lot of fun doing this thing. This episode basically is going to be kind of like, you know, those old Johnny Carson episodes where, you know, they have like a bunch of clips from past guests and do something like that. And instead of doing like a new episode, although this is considered a new episode, I would say, although Kool Kim later on you'll hear he kind of says I don't do new episodes. I just re-rack them all, which is kind of accurate for this one. You'll hear that later on, but spoiler. Yeah, a lot of those old TV shows, what they would do is they would just show a bunch of the best, the greatest hits of how many years that show was on the air. So this show started in February 2019 and has gone on here now through 200 episodes, running into 2025 coming up here. Taking me a little bit of time to get this episode going because there's a lot going on personally, and since I wanted to do I wouldn't call this a best of. That's impossible for me to really do because it would have to be more than, you know, the 90 minutes, 2 hours I'm going to dedicate to this episode. This is more just like I was just trying to find spots or guests or moments that kind of take you through different times that this show was evolving. So of the 200 episodes I've done, probably only like 4 are just me by myself. I'm not bringing back anything from those. You want to hear those, go find them. They're there for you. But what I'm going to do is I've got 20 segments from 20 different guests, and I'm going to put them in little groups, kind of doing like a mix. You know, my guy DJ Real would understand this. You know, you're putting a set together. You try to group songs together. And you try to put them in different places. Like, what's the one that's going to start it? What's the one that's in the middle? Where are you ending it? What song transitions into the other one? Well, it's kind of the same thing here. I try to put these guests and groups together that kind of have some sort of association, but not necessarily directly. You know, I'm not going to play, you know, hip-hop artists right next to, you know, an actor. I could, but I'm not doing that. So I'm trying to kind of categorize them in ways where they're little pockets of entertainment that will make sense when you hear it. So stay tuned. We've got 20 guest segments coming up here. I've broken them up in 6 groupings. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun coming back with some of these old flashbacks and hearing some of these old interviews that many of my day one listeners have heard before, but maybe haven't heard in a long time. And some of you are maybe only checked in the last couple episodes or so, go back and check these out if you want to hear the full, because it's hard for me just to find 3-4 minutes of these interviews that I've done that sometimes go an hour and just find what's the best part of it. Maybe I should bring this part back. So that was the science behind all this. So stay tuned, get a drink, kick back, and check out the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter Podcast. And before I get started, I do want to dedicate this. A friend of mine passed away recently, Mark Beans, but we called him Preach. Known him a long time, over 20 years, and just want to dedicate this episode to him. I know he listened. I know he cared about what I did, and had a lot of good times with him in the past, and, you know, was glad he made it out to my wedding a year and some change ago. So, you know, that's definitely thinking about Brother Preach. And he is a big fan of hip-hop music, and he was a big fan of what I did here. And going back to my college days when I first met him, when he would hear me and DJ Real One doing our show on WCRX 88.1 FM for Columbia College. So, you know, big dedication going out to him. Definitely want to do this with him in mind and dedicate this episode to him. So we're all thinking about you, Preach. Rest in peace, man. And this episode definitely is done in your honor. So salute to you, my friend. When I was starting to think about doing the 200th episode here of this podcast, I had a hard time thinking of anything that had a 200 milestone that you would think of as like a reference point. You know, like getting 200 hits in a baseball season is pretty big. That's a big deal. something like that, right? Rushing for 200 yards or receiving 200 yards in a football game. But there's not a lot of milestones that's attached to 200. For whatever reason, it doesn't have like the big, number attached to it. Nobody's celebrating somebody getting, 200 home runs in their career. I mean, you'll mention it, right? But nobody's going to go to the Hall of Fame because of it. So anyway, I'm saying all that because I was trying to think of something that would be, reflective of 200. And I love comic books. I read comic books. I have a bunch of them, tons of them. My closet is full of them. It's pretty crazy how many I have. I got so many I don't even know how many I have at this point. But I started looking up, well, what are some, monumental or memorable issues, number 200 of a comic book? And there's a few that really stood out. And I just want to put them out here. And, all my comic book nerds that are listening, you definitely might know some of these, or maybe you want to look for them. I need to buy a couple of these because I don't have these, any of them. I'm sure I don't have enough money to buy some of these either, but some of the ones that stood out, although I might have this one, Iron Man 200 from November 85. That's like right when I was a kid first buying stuff. And Iron Man had the silver suit. I remember liking that look that came out there in the mid-80s. There's a cool Daredevil one from November of 83 where he's standing over Bullseye, kind of like the Muhammad Ali picture. He laid him out. Daredevil's got like the wrapped arm. I don't know if it's from if it was broken. I don't know the story behind it, but he had like the wrappings around his arm. It's some injury had occurred. There's a cool Action Comics Superman one from January of 1955 where he's fighting Native Americans. I don't know what's going on inside of that one, but hopefully Superman isn't really fighting them. But there's two that really stood out for me, and I think I need to find these two. There's one, Captain America from August of 76, Captain America and Falcon. And it says, America will die on the cover. I was like, eesh, that's a little too, that's current. That's not August 1976. That's December 2024. Holy crap. So that one really stood out to me. And then another one, which I just think it just looks cool. And I might have to find out how much it costs if I can get one. Wonder Woman 200 from June of 72. It has like a horror vibe to it. So the cover has Wonder Woman like on this table where she's not able to get up. It's like a torture room or something. And it says The Beauty Hater. And it's got some lady with a knife standing in the doorway. It looks like something straight out of a horror movie. And I need this in my life. Number 200 from 1972. I need this. I need to find it. So there's a little tangent there on 200. All my comic book nerds. Look for those books. Some of you might actually have them. Put one in my stocking for me if you get a chance. All right, let's get into it. The 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. Many guests. It's an extravaganza. All that. So stay tuned. Here we go. The Infinite Banter podcast. All 200 episodes. You can find them on any platform. You can follow the show on Blue Sky and Threads, Facebook, no Twitter, and Instagram at Infinite Banter podcast. Rate and review the show on Podchaser and Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, places like that. Go to Spotify, check out the playlist, check out the poll questions. You can go on YouTube. There's some episodes on there as well. And definitely check out the sponsor of this show, super7.com/Infinite Banter podcast. You need a Christmas gift, or maybe you got to give one a little later than Christmas. Go ahead and get on there. Go to that site. You find all kinds of cool toys. They've got hip-hop figures. They've got heavy metal figures. They've got Godzilla figures, G.I. Joe, Transformers, all that stuff. All that cool shit that I grew up with, they've got toys for it. So definitely go check them out. super7.com/Infinite Banter podcast. Let's get into it. 200 episodes of this show right here, the Infinite Banter podcast. Let's get into it. The first segment is coming up here, but we don't do anything because it started this way around episode 5 where DMC would introduce this show. Well, nothing's changed here. He's doing it again. So before the show goes any further and hits that number, that milestone number, the legend from Queens, DMC, he gets on. He says this, and now it's official.
Yo, what's up? This is me, DMC, the K-I-N-G, the greatest MC in history. And right now, you're listening to Infinite Banter, because we will banter on forever, because this is the only place for all of y'all to ever be. I be Infinite Banter.
So let's kick off this 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. We're going to have flashbacks from 5 different past guests. And they're going to be broken up into 4 segments. So I'm going to start things off with Jayson Warner Smith. He's an actor who was on The Walking Dead. He's done a lot of TV and movie roles as well. He was a fun guest. I wanted to bring him back. Following him up will be Russell Todd, one of my favorite guests I've ever had on here. He was in Friday the 13th Part 2. He was on A Different World, a soap opera, many other places as well. He is going to be the second person you hear. In the third part of this segment, you're going to have two guests together. So earlier this year, I had Theodus Crane and Pamela Davis-Noland, who are part of the short film Room for Dessert. And I wanted to make sure I include them in here because it was very, very important content we were bringing you with that interview, and so much going on with that short film. So you will hear from both of them in one segment there. And then after them, you will hear Nathan Hamill, son of Mark Hamill, who we all know was Luke Skywalker. He came on the show about a year and a half ago to talk about his figures and things of that nature that he had coming up at a comic book convention. And it was a lot of fun talking with him. So stay tuned. We got a block of guests right here. Jayson Warner Smith, Russell Todd, Theodus Crane, Pamela Davis-Noland, and Nathan Hamill, all in this segment here on the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. Big time flashback.
Hey, this is Jayson Warner Smith, and you are listening to Mark Jolliffe on Infinite Banter.
It always felt like Gavin was the one savior who, this is how I took him, as like somebody who really didn't like being that job. Like he was a guy who went to work every day. It was like somebody who manages like a store or something, and he goes to work, he punches a clock, but when something goes wrong, he's like, oh shit, I got to do this. All right. You know, so I could relate to him because we've all had jobs that we do, but don't necessarily like them. It always felt like Gavin would rather be doing something else, but this is what he's doing now. And he's dealing with these, you know, ultra egos and crazy people, but that's what it felt like as a viewer. Is that how you portrayed Gavin?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it evolved into.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing about doing multi-episode television is that the characters evolve over time. And because what happens is, if you're fortunate, like I was, the writers start writing to you. They figure out, like, oh, okay. Because I can remember it distinctly because my first day, my first episode, Josh and I only worked one day. We were in, we were out, and then we were gone for months because that was episode 2 or 3, I can't remember which it was now, of season 7. And then we didn't come back until like episode 10 or 8 or something like that. Right. And so between the time we shot that first one and based upon what they saw me do in that first one and how I was portraying Gavin, because not everybody gets to see that, just the Nicotero, the director, and the showrunners and producers and writers, I guess, watch the audition, and then they'll adjust the script a little, maybe, I don't know. But then after seeing my performance, they're like, okay, yeah, this is Gavin's middle management. He doesn't want us to write, and so they wrote that way. And I can remember because my director on the first episode was Nicotero, and he's the one that actually got me hired, so I'm forever in debt to him. My second director was Jeff January, who I had not met until that day. He kept, after every take, he's like, grumpy dad, grumpier dad, grumpier and grumpier. That's what he wanted, and that's how the script was kind of written, and that's how Gavin evolved into this, pissed off guy that just, let's get this over with, It's a character that they hadn't really had on the show before. So it was such an honor to be given the responsibility of carrying that through that short time that I was on the show.
Yeah, he never really felt like a villain. He just kind of felt like a reluctant, bad guy. But if tables are turned, he would be the same guy on the other side. He just kind of like, oh, you got to do this today? Like, ugh.
Yeah, and honestly, at the core of all that, Gavin's a coward. That's why he's there.
Right.
I don't know. We don't know how he fell in with the Saviors, but my imagination tells me that, he was with another group. The Saviors came in, and they killed off some people and said, now you're with us. And he's like, now I'm with you.
Yep. There you go.
I'm Liv Negan. and then he had really good managerial skills, and he got stuff done, and he's reliable, and he got, so he rose up the ranks, and that's how, and he didn't cause trouble. And he didn't threaten Negan, and he, got shit done. And so, it didn't matter what mood he was in. He just got it done.
Hey, it's Russell Todd from Friday the 13th Part 2, Another World, Soap Opera, and Shopping Mall. Just did a podcast with Mark called The Infinite Banter. Check it out soon. Well, it's interesting when you're making a horror film and you're literally, when you're not shooting and you're hanging out with the killer, like in this case Jason, and you're talking and everything, and you know that it's, this is not real. You're just shooting a movie. But at night, and I've told the story before, but we would walk home from the lodge to our cabins we were staying in, which was maybe a 20-minute walk or 15-minute walk from the lodge. But it was this just dirt road with really tall pine trees on both sides. And the moon, beautiful moon up above. And you'd walk by, you'd be released one by one. So quite often I'd be walking on that road by myself. And invariably, there would be another cast member or a crew member in the trees going, kill, 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 kill.
Oh, my God.
To scare the shit out of you. And it did.
Yeah.
And that you just shot the scene with Jason down the road there, and it's not real, but you still get spooked.
Well, not only that, this is only the second one. It's not like it's part of the lexicon or something where everybody's familiar with this. Yeah.
It was just beginning.
Yeah, that's crazy. Were you guys conscious of that? Because obviously this is the second one, but in a way it's the first real Jason movie. And were you guys kind of feeling that? Yeah.
We weren't cognizant of anything except we were a bunch of young people being hired to do a sequel to a movie we all appreciated. I mean, I saw the first one, and like everyone else, I was scared and I enjoyed it. So having the opportunity to come back to do a sequel was really cool. So I loved that when I got booked for this movie. But you have no idea when you're shooting something, first of all, if it's going to be released. You never know. And then enjoyed, respected, reviewed well, whatever, and and it is what it is. And if it will have legs, and in this case, it had quite the legs.
They made how many of them, right? And 30 years later, 40 years later, we're still talking about all these movies. And
I know it's just phenomenal and amazing. And all of us I know in part two, and I'm sure in all of them are very appreciative of the fans and how they've kind of really just embraced this franchise for all these years. And it's not just the ones that have been around since it came out, but there's so many new people every year, that are getting into horror because it's such a big thing still. And so generation after generation after generation are seeing these movies, are seeing, my film there. And it's wonderful. It will go on in perpetuity. And who knows if there'll be more of them.
Yeah, there's chances I keep hearing there's going to be possibly something. And I know Vicente DeSanti from Womp Stomp Films, I had him on here a few months back. He has a fan film coming out, Never Hike Alone, too. And it's got Tom Matthews from Part 6 and some of the characters from that. And so, that's it. There's still a lot being made, but as far as like a big feature film, that's still on the
rights are in some sort of legal issue right now. So I think that's what's stopping another, because there was one that was supposed to be made, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and that stopped. So there's a battle over the rights, but they're making a TV series right now about it. Well, as soon as the strike's over.
Right. Like a prequel, right? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is a prequel. Yep.
Yeah, that should be interesting, and to see how I guess it'll be a young Ms. Voorhees and possibly the father. We don't really hear much about him. He seems like he's a bad guy. He doesn't show up for anything. So maybe they'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Or a young Scott, when he first got the slingshot or whatever. We first see you. I don't know.
I wrote Brian Fuller, the producer, and I said, you should bring Scott back.
Yeah, right. That'd be pretty cool. Or you could play Scott's dad, dropping off a younger Scott now.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's a great plot for Another Friday where we play our parents and we come back.
Yeah.
And we look like ourselves, and we come back for closure, to a camp to find out, what went on. And then, of course, we get picked off one by one.
Right. Watch out for this kid, Scott. He might watch you while you're swimming in the lake. Be careful. Right. He might take your clothes from you. Back to that scene where you're hanging upside down. Were you doing that the whole time? Was that also a stunt person doing some of that? Because the first swing is like really violent when you first get in there.
The actual swing is a stunt person who goes into the trap and flies upside down. Yes, but then it cuts to me in the close-up, of course, and then it's me for the rest of the scene. And when we did the actual, Jason slitting my throat, I was up there for a while. I think it was 30 minutes or something, 30, 40 minutes.
That must have felt like a long time.
Well, what they did is they had a couple of guys that were holding my shoulders up so I wasn't fully inverted. And so the blood wasn't rushing in my head. And at that point, they were just fine-tuning a little touch-up on the on the prosthetic I had on my neck, which was pre-cut. So the machete didn't even have to cut it open, thank God. But it was preset. And then there was a guy up in a tree above me with a big tank full of blood, fake blood, to pump it down a hose, which was running through my leg, up my shirt, and then, of course, to my neck. And they said, look, Russell, we need to get this in one take because there's a lot of blood and it's going to, it'd be tough to redo it. So that made me a little nervous, but, we got it in one take, which was great, just reacted to what was happening. And it cuts a lot sooner than they would have liked, but the censors were really strict on this one for some reason, on all the death scenes, cutting them really quickly. And although you see more in that box set, with all the Fridays, there's commentary in that, and you see the blood flow longer and fuller. And I think eventually it went into my eyes, and we had it totally cut. But you see more in that box set.
That's crazy. Like you're saying, you got to do it in one take, and oh, by the way, you're upside down, and all that stuff. It's like you got to get it right the first time. That's a lot to put on you, but
no
you
pressure.
did it. Yeah,
Pressure.
right. No pressure at all.
This is Theodus Crane for Room for Dessert, The Walking Dead, and Five Nights at Freddy's. And I'm here to say congratulations to Mark for his 200th episode of Infinite Banter.
The thing I loved about his character is that he's sympathetic, even though I guess technically, he is the bad guy, right? But he's not. He's not a bad guy. Circumstances brought him to this moment, this turning point, and things pushed him to a point. Right? He even says it. He did everything right. He did everything he was supposed to do, and he's still in this spot, no matter what. Talk about that dynamic of just the everyday struggle of just Black Americans in this country, and they're just trying to do the right thing, and there's just obstacles that are always in your path.
Right. And the backstory of that, is his mother telling him that, as a child, if you just take your time eating, take small bites, sip little sips, don't drink a lot, don't put a lot of fluids in, and just, eat all of your food, and then you'll save room for dessert. And he did that in his life. He took his time. He did everything right. He did everything by the book, as he was instructed to do in this country as a man, and still not able to get to your dessert. How frustrating is that? Both of them, John was having dessert,
right,
and he lost his life. Yeah.
Expound on that dynamic, Theo, a little bit.
Like I said, for one thing, being a Black man in America, you don't actually realize how many opportunities you don't get until after the fact. And it's across the board. It's the medical system. It's the judicial system. It's the police on the street. It's how people view you in the boardroom, how people classroom, how people view you on the street. You don't really fully understand it a lot of times until you're older or until somebody illuminates that. And so my biggest frustration comes years later. And so relating my story to this story, nobody told me ahead of time that you have to do all this extra work. I learned it along the way, and you get to a point where it's like, why am I doing this? It would be easier to just go for what people typically go for that gets them in trouble. But yeah, it was. I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of gratifying to play out that frustration, to especially with being able to go home at the end of it. And you forget how many of those feelings you have to stuff down to operate on a regular basis.
Right.
And so embodying this character, pissed off about a lot of stuff. You forget about it. You forget I'm perpetually frustrated about it. And you kind of can't be if you want to move forward. And so there's definitely like a double standard. There's a I had to be disarming. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. But I had to become the king of second impressions.
Wow.
And so
right.
Things like that. And so it eventually weighs on you. It eventually gets to a point where I don't want to operate like that anymore. I want to do what I want to do, So I definitely feel them. But I will say my mindset is probably more in line with the cook. Find it out, you do what you got to do, make it happen, stay in the thick of it. But I definitely, the eyes was killer. Like I said, as I get older, as my eyes are open to more things, and I'm woken up to more realities, like the man was speaking some truth.
Yeah, the line from the movie that I took with me after I watched it. Your character's sitting at the booth, and he talks about the conflict of we just want equality, but what if revenge was something? It reminded me of like an old Tupac line from this song, "I Wonder If Heaven's Got a Ghetto," where he says, "Just think if we decide to retaliate." Like that verse kind of popped in my head afterwards. I was thinking about that song, and I always tend to put music to things too when I think of something. But,
yeah.
But that line really like hit me. Like, I watched it again, and it's like there's that, and I knew that line was coming. I'm like, this is the part that's gonna just hit me in the gut. Talk about I feel like that really sums up what he's dealing with. And he was at that moment where he had to decide, do I just try to go forward and do the right thing, or do I take this other way? And I felt like that one really hit. That was a really powerful moment in the film.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Theo, you want to expound on that?
There would be hell to pay. That's all I can really say about it. It's a complicated part of a complicated topic, because I don't believe in absolutes. There's no 100% of anything. Not all type of people, like not all people in prison are criminals. Not all police officers have the same outlook. You are a part of the group, and so you are responsible for an aspect of it. If it was a matter of vengeance versus equality, first off, it would be tragic because there are going to be unforeseen casualties. They're going to be is going to turn into that. You remember back in the day when they were, I think it was like a board game or something. They kept pushing the Civil War, or either a board game or a documentary or something. But it was like neighbor versus neighbor, brother versus brother.
Oh yeah.
It will be a lot of that. It will be a lot of, and I mean that's been, and I'm not at all, but it's been really, really illuminated by our current political situation. When you look at how many people are starting to raise their voice for I've been surprised by a lot of people and just what they feel strongly about. I work to not pass any judgments on anybody, and it's been the last 4 years have been shocking to find out what something
true indeed.
And so I think that kind of pressure cooker, you really see how people thought about things, and you really see, where people's heads are. Because you kind of see it now. There's symbolism. There always has been. We even have a new Confederate flag. People don't even realize it, but that's what it is, So, it would be a mess. It would be a mess.
Yeah. It's not something that, would benefit anyone, right?
Right.
And so that's the point that I like to, that I would like to say that I'm trying to make with the film. Again, I always say, Room for Dessert is not an answer. It's a question. It's a what if question, and before it would get to that point, we got to get a solution. What's the solution before it gets to this point where this young man took it this far? He had made a decision that day.
Right.
He was going to end his life. But the only thing that he wanted on his last day on earth was to finally get something that he wanted. And that was his favorite dessert. And it was at that diner. And when he gets there, he sees there's only one slice left. And it's about to be taken away. Oh no, this is it.
Right.
And that's what happens. He literally just snapped.
Hi, this is Pamela Davis-Noland, writer and director of the award-winning short film Room for Dessert. Congratulations, Mark, on 200 episodes of Infinite Banter. What an honor. Thank you for having me as a guest.
I got to ask about because I haven't seen Megan yet. It's on my list of movies I need to get around to. And the fact that, one of your figures is in the movie. Talk about how that came about and just the whole origin story of how your figure ended up in a movie that ended up being a pretty big hit.
Yeah. I happened to, my friend Dorina, who saw a screening of it, happened to text me and just said, "Hey, Kaiju Frankenstein, it's in the movie." And so, of course, my friend Nikhil and I, we went and checked it out, and it was a shock. We were just waiting. We loved the movie, but we were, of course, there going, "When's it going to happen? When are we going to see it?" Is Dorina messing with me?
Right.
And It was really cool. It happens really quickly. So I pre-ordered the Blu-ray so I could pause it. But they listed the 3D Retro, the manufacturer, and it was a collaboration with Toma, who's one of my favorite designers, toy makers, Japanese artist. Who we essentially split the character down the middle, and I designed one side and he did the other side. So it was an honor to work with him, and I still can't believe it.
And I'm sure when you see it on screen, it's just like, wow, this is really cool to see that in the background. 'Cause we've all grown up on movies where there's toys in the background and makes you want to go buy the toy or makes you want to have it. You see the commercials or something like that. Did you get a lot of people asking about getting one of those figures once the movie came out?
We sent one to Violet McGraw, who's the little girl in the movie, and just as a thank you. I'm curious to check out the extras because I want to see if they're. I want it in high definition. First of all, I need a hard copy of this.
There you go.
Forget, but to see if there's anything on the commentary of how it happened, because it was just a happy surprise for me to see that it was in there, and also it's kind of referred to as the favorite toy of in Allison Williams' collection. So that was it was very cool to see that.
And talk about the toy itself. Was it something you always had in the mind to make? Like, what was the origin of just making that toy? How did it come about?
We had wanted to. I mean, I wanted to work with him. He's one of my favorites. So when I found out that he was game to collaborate, it was just a dream come true. Like his stuff. You can check it out. Tomart or Toma RT. And he used to work for Sega, working on the Sonic the Hedgehog, some of the later games. And
right.
If you play, I think, Sonic CD, you look at it and go, oh, okay, that's his. And I checked with him, and he's got a very, very unique style. But I was really excited to work with him, and we went through iterations and had a couple different designs. And, we took our time to pick the right one. We could jump in and work on one that it was, I think, like a boy in a robot suit or a character on a giant fox. It was just, we were just playing around with stuff. And this was Ben Goretzky's idea. He's the owner of 3D Retro and also runs Designer Con in Anaheim. He said, why don't you just split it down the middle? And we just had a template, and we were just kind of mixing and matching the pieces, and came up with something that pleased both of us. And there you are, or there we were.
You're right. And then Frankenstein, just one of those timeless, monsters, universal monsters, creatures. You could always come up with some different variation of, Frankenstein. So it's really cool. And you said Sega CD, which is taking me back, by the way. I think I have one in my closet somewhere next to like my Nintendo.
That and the 32X, it got to the point where it was like, it was just this monstrosity that was stacked upon, piece after piece before they came out with the Saturn and the Dreamcast and their swan song. So,
oh wow, there you go. I still have a working Atari 2600, so I'm totally dating myself right now. But
no, I'm a Nintendo guy. So but I played the Atari. I think even the Odyssey 2.
Oh, nice.
That was laying around, and that was, I think, the first. My parents were playing that, where you'd actually take an inlay or like a template and put it on the TV to play the games.
Oh,
it was
God. That's crazy.
A little more advanced than Pong, but not
yes.
quite Dig Dug.
Not by much.
Yeah, right. Don't get me started on Nintendo. We'll be here. How much time do you have?
Yeah, right.
How much tape you got in this thing?
Hey, it's Nathan Hamill from Two Dumb Dinos, and I wanted to give congratulations to Mark on reaching 200 episodes of the Infinite Banter podcast.
So for this second segment of flashbacks on the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast, wanted to bring in a grouping of people that have been on this show that have a lot more athleticism than I do, and everybody listening probably as well. Without a doubt, they do. It's not even a question. And in the past, I've actually had a few wrestlers on the show, and two of them I wanted to bring back here. At the time I interviewed her name was Roxy. This is back in 2019. This is in her early days. And she was young. I mean, she was barely 18 or about to turn 18 at the time. But currently, she's in NXT, which is the developmental, basically the next level of WWE. The people who are in NXT are eventually going to be stars at WWE. She is there right now, and she's been champion there. She's doing her thing there. She goes by the name Roxanne Perez currently. But back when I interviewed her, she was Roxy, and I saw her at an independent house show. And I was like, wow, she's going to be pretty good someday. I thought that. And I wanted to find her and get her on the show here. I don't think I realized how young she was, but really amazing. And the story she tells here is really funny about going on Greyhound buses because she couldn't drive yet because she wasn't, able to. And she couldn't go driving anywhere. She was so young, trying to just get herself in the craft of wrestling. And then you go from the opposite end. So you get somebody who's barely starting in it, who's on the come up of being a star, to somebody who was a star and was in the game for years and years. And he was reflecting back on those old days. B. Brian Blair from the old WWF era, Killer Bees, and he was in the AWA and so many other wrestling associations. He wrote a book about it. Truth be told, he's been on the show a couple times. I wanted to bring back him, talking about a funny story about Andre the Giant. And last but not least, not a wrestler, but somebody who definitely looks like one, Kyle Farnsworth, a former baseball pitcher, played with the Cubs and the Yankees and the Braves and many other teams. He became a bodybuilder later on in life and currently, and I brought him on to talk about his transition to becoming a bodybuilder and his reflection on his days pitching. So that's what you're going to hear here in this segment. You're going to hear Roxy, although she's known now as Roxanne Perez, B. Brian Blair, and Kyle Farnsworth here in this segment, the very athletic segment of the Infinite Banter Podcast 200th episode flashback extravaganza. I need to get a better tagline. Here we go.
This is Roxy, and you're listening to Infinite Banter.
I was watching the match you had. It was a six-pack match with you and AQA and Alex Gracia, Hyan, the championship match, and the announcer had said that you had taken a Greyhound to get there. That was your dedication, so that was pretty funny. I'm assuming that was true, right? That's what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, so since I am pretty young, I can't legally drive out of town by myself. So I do have to be taking Greyhounds when I don't have other people to ride along with from Laredo. So yeah, I do every now and then I do have to be taking Greyhounds to Houston. I think I do for the most part every month I at least take one Greyhound because we have that monthly show for ROW. And so yeah, I usually take a Greyhound to and back, which is pretty those Greyhounds are usually about 7-8 hours, and in a car it's only 6 hours. So I think one time I was actually in a Greyhound for 11 hours driving to Houston just because of
yuck.
all this stuff that was going on with the Greyhound with my bus specifically, and it was the worst.
I mean, I've taken Megabus before. I don't know if you're familiar with Megabus. I don't even know if they're still around. It's like $1 to go to a city in the next state or something, but I've never physically taken a Greyhound. I can't imagine that it's the best experience, but I'm sure every ride is different. I'm sure there's sometimes it's not that bad, but I can't even imagine what it's like to be on a long bus ride like that. You probably get bored or try to sleep or something.
Oh yeah, I always try to sleep, but there's always different types of smells on those buses.
Oh jeez. Play guess the smell. What is that?
Right.
Where not to sit. Speaking of that match I just referenced, that was a fun match to watch where all 6 of you were going at it and Gracia ended up winning the title. Talk about that match and what it was like working with those 5.
That match was that was actually one of my favorite matches to this day. I love all those girls are just so good and so talented. It was just really special to be able to share the ring with all 5 of them at the same time. I had wrestled each of them in singles matches. Just for all of us to be in the ring at the same time it was just so fun.
And speaking of traveling, are there any cities you haven't been to that you're looking forward to traveling to see, to go to wrestle? And are there any that you've gone to like, you know what, I will never go there again? And if you don't want to say, I understand. You might. I don't want to piss anybody off, but
like in Texas specifically,
or Texas, or even across the country, anywhere.
I don't think I've had any bad experiences, honestly, in any city. I really like traveling to Chicago.
There you go. There's your brownie points because that's where I'm at. So.
Yeah, I love Chicago. I really want to go back.
I mean, technically it's Berwyn, but.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I saw you at Rise and Shimmer back in March. Me and a couple of friends of mine. That was the first time I ever saw you wrestle, and that was a tremendous weekend. I mean, you guys put on a great show all 3 nights.
Yeah, that was such a good experience. So I didn't know that I was going to be wrestling for Shimmer. I was booked on Rise. I wrestled. It was me on Chris Wolf's team against Sue Young's team, and that was such a crazy. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh my God!
Such a crazy and fun match.
Well, Sue Young and the Undead Brides that come out, and then Chris Wolf with all her personality and everything going on. That's just a fun match to watch with all the personalities going on in that one.
Yeah, that was so fun. But yeah, after that match, they had mentioned that they wanted me to do the Shimmer dates for that weekend, which is pretty. That was pretty amazing.
Infinite Banter, man, wow, what a name. I love that. Yeah, man, I've been from Maine to Spain and deep down in the Ukraine, from ocean to ocean to coast, north, south, east, and west. But one place I've never been is to the Infinite Banter.
You know, one of my favorite stories in the book was you and Dusty Rhodes and Andre the Giant and the peace story. I mean, it's definitely one of those that I had to put the book down and think about what I was reading for a second. That's just one of the highlights. If you could elaborate on that one a little bit, and people, when they get this book, they'll see so many stories in here. But that one definitely stood out.
Yeah, I mean, we were. I had a powder blue Lincoln Continental, a 1972 powder blue Lincoln Continental that I had since high school, and I mean, it was a great car. This particular time, we were in the Louisiana territory, working for Bill Watts, and whenever Dusty came in town, he would always ride with me, and same with Andre. They both liked the room and the big Lincoln, and of course I'm easy company. I like to listen a lot. So we're in Jackson, Mississippi, and in January, I believe it was January, and was sun shining. Probably about 40 degrees, which seemed really warm at the time. Dusty had a West Texas State long sleeve kind of t-shirt on, not really a sweatshirt, kind of a thick t-shirt. And Andre had a Wayavea, which he wore very often, just had a white t-shirt with a white Wayavea that wasn't even buttoned up. It's kind of a collared Spanish style shirt. It's called a Wayavea, but which Andre wore constantly. He had a few colors, but mostly white. So Dusty says to me, he says, Beeper, he always called me Beeper. He said, Beeper, listen, you need to go to the liquor store and you need to pick us up some alcohol. You need to get the giant 2 bottles of Crown Royal, 2 of the big bottles. Get him a case of Budweiser. And I'm just listening, just thinking, oh God, that's a lot of alcohol. And he says, get me a case of Lone Star. And he said, you drive and you can get a 6-pack of any kind you want. So he hands me a couple $100, and I go to the liquor store and get everything that he wanted. Before I left too, he told me, he said, pick up a cooler. He said, we're going to Greenville, Mississippi. And he said, it's going to be very, very cold, very cold. And we might not want to pee outside. We might want to pee in the cooler. I said, okay.
It's so crazy.
So I did as he said,
right.
Did as he said, went to the liquor store, picked up the 2 bottles of Crown Royal, the case of Budweiser, case of Lone Star, and I forget what kind of 6-pack I got. I got some kind of 6-pack, and we get in the car. It's great listening to the stories. We start heading up, and now it's a little bit cooler. It's about an hour later. It's maybe an hour and a half, 1:30, 2 o'clock. And we got about 220 miles to go, and straight north from Jackson, Mississippi. And, I'm kind of worried because I didn't want to tell him that my heater was broken. So, I had a defroster and it kind of cleared the window, but the actual heater didn't work, and I'm waiting for him. But the whole time up there, they're drinking. They don't say a word about the heater. And I'm kind of cool. I got a big thick jacket on, and I'm driving and just listening to those guys playing some country and Western music, and Hank Williams Jr. and just having a good time. I'm laughing, listening, laughing. They peed a few times in the cooler. We get up to pull into the arena there in Greenville. Dusty says, hey, people, he said, listen, we're going to be on last and you're going to be on earlier, so you come out and get the car warmed up. He said, the showers are really shitty here, so we're just going to come straight in and we're going to head straight back to Jackson. We'll shower at the hotel when we get in. I said, okay, Dream, yes, sir. And so I go have my match and come back out to the car. You know, when it's time, they're getting ready to go into the ring. I watch a couple minutes, head back to the car, trying to get the car as warm as I possibly can. I had a few people actually jump in, a couple people that I knew, try to warm the car. But you got to
do what you got to do, right? I mean,
I got everything ready. And so here they come, you know, matches are over, boom, boom, they come in, pop the trunk, the bags go in the trunk. Dusty goes immediately right in the back. The boss opens up the front door. Hey, boss. Hey, guys, you know, it's all smiles. You know, we had a sold-out crowd. Everybody's happy. And Dusty's riding the pine in the middle there so he can talk to Andre. Andre's up front, and I'm driving along. And, you know, we're just, everybody's drinking, and Dusty's being the bartender. And Andre has to pee, and Dusty has to pee, and again, the thing, and you know, somebody says something. I don't know who said what, but it was really, really funny. And Andre leans forward, and as he leans forward towards my dashboard, he leans backwards and hits the seat. The back of the seat breaks and falls right on Dusty's lap, where he happened to have the cooler, and he's dumping piss from his McDonald's cup in there. And the whole cooler of pee, mixed up urine, goes all over Dusty, and he starts cutting a promo on me. God damn, B-boy, man, you just peed on American Dream. I can't believe you did that, man. God damn, you're gonna be blackballed, you know. And Andre's laughing so hard, and you know, and then he's telling me to turn my heater on and it's cold. And I said, I got it on, Dusty, because he's got urine all over him. Now he's cold. Oh gosh, and I've never seen Andre belly laugh like that so hard in my life. You know, it's just amazing.
You became the American Stream, it sounds like.
The American Stream, I like it.
First of all, that's a great Dusty impression you've been doing. Not to overlook that. The Paul Wilson, you know, incident, or whatever you want to call it. Do you still think about that? Do people still ask you about that all the time? I can't imagine you don't get many days where people don't bring that up to you if they're talking about baseball.
Yeah, I mean, if fans come up, that's usually the first thing that comes up. So, but you know, it's something that's always people will remember, which I'm cool with. You know, it was a pretty big event.
Event? You know, is that what Paul Wilson calls it?
So, you know, I have no issue with talking about it, and
right.
You know, it's just, you know, it's part of my career. It's part of baseball. I guess you can call it history, I guess, but you know, it's just one of those things that kind of like the Nolan Ryan fight, you know. So, you know, it's always brought up, and I think every year around that time it happens, you know, it pops up all the time, and friends and fans always send it to me through social media and stuff like that. You know, I get a good laugh about it, and I'm hoping everybody else does. I'm sure Paul doesn't really get a good laugh at it anymore, but
I can't imagine.
But you know, it was very interesting and I'm not gonna say fun, because fighting's never fun, but,
right.
But you know, it's part of the game.
You and Paul Wilson, have you guys ever talked about it afterwards? Have you even run into him at all? Maybe years later.
We never did. I think the next week after that happened, I think they came into town. I think I was in the right field, he was in left field, but you know, we never said anything. You know, like I said, I had no hard feelings. It's just, you know, two competitors going at it. Heat of the moment and stuff like that. So unfortunate that that happened, but I'm just glad I ended up on the right end of it.
Well, yeah, right. I saw the video the other day because I haven't seen it in a while, and it's like they show both of you, and you know, you look like you're fine, and he looks like he just had the worst day of his life. And it's just, I'm a big wrestling fan, and it looked like a spear move the way you hit him, like you're Goldberg or something, or maybe even like a sack from a defensive end. And it was like your football instincts, because you played football growing up, right? So you probably got that in you that you don't even know about.
Yeah, I just reacted. You know, that was just my first thing, was eliminate the threat. You know, my dad was a Vietnam vet, and he said, you know, eliminate the threat as quickly as possible. So I just reacted and just did what I thought was deemed necessary to eliminate the threat.
There you go. That's a good way to put it.
Quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of fights this year. There was one with the Mariners and Angels recently that got a lot of publication, and yeah, that's a different way of putting it, but I like it. It makes sense, especially for you, because I mean, you're standing there and you don't know what his intentions are, and he's got a bat, and yeah, you got to do what you got to do, and everybody's okay, and but at the time, that was I think on my Instagram I don't know what the date was, but every year around that time it'll pop up, or on Facebook or something. It'd be like, hey, remember when this happened? So yeah, you're definitely remembered. Whether you like being remembered for that, I'm not sure, but it's definitely something that comes up.
Just as long as I'm remembered, that's the only thing I care about.
There you go, man. Well, we remember Kyle Farnsworth, of course, man, and. So here we are, the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast, and I got another pocket of guests. I'm not naming these groups, but I feel like I'm doing them as I'm talking. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel the need to. So this group is kind of like, like the independent superstar group. First, you can hear from Akrobatik, one of the nicest MCs in the game. And I was really geeked when he came on the show. I think it was episode like 33. Go back and play that episode. And every one of these I'm playing portions of. You should definitely check out the whole episode. Yeah, but go check out Akrobatik. But here, when he came on, it was just like that stamp of approval. Like, wow, Akrobatik said yes, he's coming on. I was just really geeked to have him on, and I haven't heard this in so long that I had a hard time finding. There was so much. I wanted to play the whole interview when I was trying to find a part to play for this. So I picked out a part here. Definitely check it out. And after him, you're going to hear Wordsworth, and he's another one of these, these MCs that, you hear about, and that they're nice on the mic and everything. He was just one of those that he came on, and I was geeked to have him on as well, and just a really good dude, and you're going to hear from him as well. And then to round out this group, one of my favorite singers of all time is Reese, and her album, How I Do, is one of my favorite albums ever made, regardless of genre. I know that album backward and forward. I know every lyric. I know it all. Came out over 20 years ago. The time I had her on, it was going to be the 20th anniversary of that album, and it was just, amazing to have her on. She's just such a cool guest. And just somebody I've always admired. And stay tuned for Akrobatik, Wordsworth, and Reese. Now we're back into the music portion of this show, because, basically, I know the percentage, but it's probably somewhere in the 80 to 85% of all these episodes are music related. That's kind of the foundation of this thing. But, you've heard me play segments from wrestlers and actors, but for the most part, that's what the show has been. So you're going to hear a lot of that going forward here in this 200th episode. So here we go. Akrobatik, Wordsworth, and Reese, bringing you this segment here on the Infinite Banter podcast, 200th episode.
What up, y'all? This is Akrobatik. I possess the inhuman capabilities, and right now I'm dropping the Infinite Banter with my homeboy DJ Soundwave. Check him out, y'all.
And speaking of where you came from, the Boston scene back then, I'm sure obviously now, it's not really about where you're from anymore. You can put a record out without much issues. But back then, and did it feel like it was kind of a hindrance because, you're in Boston, cats are from New York, cats are from California, even the South for that matter. But, other than like Ed O.G. and Guru, there really wasn't a lot of Boston, MCs that got national recognition. Even I don't think I even knew Guru was from Boston until like maybe a couple albums in for Gang Starr.
Right. People from Boston knew that Guru was from Boston. And then he actually mentioned it on a later Gang Starr album, or maybe he mentioned it on Step in the Arena. But I really remember it from Hard to Earn when he was like, I used to hang in four corners,
right,
spots and being down with brothers carry burners. And so when he did that, I'm like, okay, that's a full-throated acknowledgement of where he's from. But it was tough because it's like Boston has always been kind of like, like the stepchild of New York City in terms of hip hop, because New York is the birthplace. And we're like, with the exception of Philadelphia, I guess you could say, was kind of like the second city of East Coast hip hop in that regard, because it's right there. But then there we are. We're close, but we got this funny accent, and we're definitely known for not having as much diversity, right, especially as a New York City, but as most hip hop cities, most major cities, Boston has always been thought of as, I'll meet people from other places and they'll be like, oh, there's black people from Boston when I say I'm from Boston. It's all good, whatever. I mean, there's 150,000 black people in Boston proper out of 650,000 people totally. So, you know, whatever that is, what's that, 20%? I mean, so, you know, it's not Maine,
Right.
but it definitely isn't like this, like, it's not known as this, like, urban metropolis where, you know, people of color are thriving and there's just like this vibrant, like, hip hop culture there. Well, it just wasn't known that way. But in fact, it was exactly that. It's just that Boston was much more segregated and low key. So, you know, I just think that not being in New York and not having the industry there, like, what we had to do was go to New York. You wanted to prove yourself. Like, in the very early stages of just making demos still, I had this song called New York Undercover. And the whole point of the song was me, like, taking the bus. And this is what I really did, was taking the bus, going to New York City and finding the spots where there were open mics and jumping into ciphers and stuff, and, like, trying to mask my Boston accent, not really talking about where I was from, and just getting on the mic and trying to impress everybody, you know what I mean? And then after I impressed everybody, I would tell them, yeah, you know, I'm from Boston. And they were like, well, we didn't even know there were cats out there besides Edo G. So, you know, Edo certainly paved the way, right, as did, you know, Guru did too, because like I said, the people in Boston knew about Gangstar because there was Gangstar Posse before Guru hooked up with Premier. And Gangstar Posse was still like one of the more well-known groups in Boston at the time. And then there was also the almighty RSO, and they went on to be known as Made Men. And, you know, of course, Benzino was from that group, and he started the Source magazine with, I believe, Dave Mays out in at Harvard University. So, you know, there is a lot of hip-hop connection to Boston. I mean, just the fact alone that the Source started in Boston, I think, kind of just makes Boston one of the pillar cities for hip-hop right off the bat, because the Source, you know, that magazine, back when people used to still pick up things and read them other than their phone, you know, that was like the main, it was in fact the Source. That was where you would go before Double XL and all the other magazines that came along after it. The Source was the place. Like, you wanted your album to get reviewed in the Source, and you wanted to get at least 4 mics for your album review, because if you did, that just pretty much stamped and solidified you as hip hop royalty at the time. And then they also had the hip hop quotable of the month, where they would take the dopest verse from any MC on any record that month and print it in the magazine. And that was just so powerful at the time. You know, that was all, you know, ideas that were cooked up in Boston as well. And you know, on the fringes of hip hop, we also had New Edition, Belle Biv DeVoe.
Oh, there you go.
You know what I mean? Too. And so those guys were huge, and they brought some light to Roxbury. You know, they had their videos where they were on like Mass Ave. And it's funny because I didn't really go to the South End like that back then in Boston, so I didn't really recognize it. The first time I really recognized Boston proper being in a music video or on TV was Edo G's I Got to Have It video. And so I was like, whoa, like that was, and I tell him that still to this day, like that was the moment where I felt like, yo, I can make it too. Like, I had been rapping for a while, but I was still pretty much a kid. And then this video came on, and Edo himself was a kid then. He, you know, was a super young MC on TV, but I'm looking at areas from my neighborhood that I recognize scrolling by on the screen, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And that was what instilled in me, like, this is something that's happening where, you know, people in Texas and California are turning on their TV and they're watching a rapper from Boston show you his town while he's rapping about being from Roxbury. And I'm like, okay, I'm going for it. You know, so that was like a big inspirational movie for me. So yeah, I mean, Boston, you know, has its place certainly in hip hop. And now that the years have gone by, you know, the ones of us that have really had that longevity, you know, your Esoterics and your Mr. Lives and guys like Slane and Jayson and stuff like that, like their Rex, you know, their terminology, there's a ton now. Because like you said, now it's a little easier for people to get their music out because of the internet. So you have MCs from wherever. I'm working on a project with a producer from Salt Lake City right now, you know what I mean? And I've never even sat in the same room with him. So it's a different ball game now. But those guys that were able to, you know, put it all together before we got to this point that are still doing it, they're the ones that I think that are definitely going to be remembered by people around the world as being the guys that brought Boston to the forefront of it.
Yo, what up, world? This is Wordsworth from right now. You're checking out Infinite Banter with DJ Soundwave. Make sure you're listening. Make sure you got everything turned off around you. Don't be driving your car. Don't do nothing. This is the most special moment in your life listening to this show. A few years ago, I was out in Chicago for a teacher convention situation. So yeah, man, I love going out there, and anytime I'm able to be out there, and you know, it's pure. That's what I like about Chicago.
Yeah.
It's like if you meet somebody that's doing music out there, it's like pure, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely, man. We definitely have a scene out here, as you know, and yeah, we appreciate when we get real artists like yourself coming out here, and you know, the fans here are you know, the true hip hop fandom, and the crowds are always legit. And like you said, it's a great place, man. You know, as you know, we got some spitters here, and yeah,
right.
definitely.
That's why I said it's pure, man. It's pure. You know, like when I did Rap Olympics, I think when I first really started, well, of course, Common was out before the Rap Olympics. What, like when I met Juice, of course, from out there. You know, like it was certain people that helped solidify to me, like, oh, they're not playing over here. You know, with the rhymes.
Yeah, man.
Because you know, when you think about when we were younger or so on, like, you really didn't know what was outside your block or your city. You couldn't even fathom in another state or another city that was like, you know, or another country now that there's somebody as nice as you or somebody that's just dope in general, because you're locked into your own confines. So once you start going outside of these states and stuff like that, I literally was showing videos of Juice freestyling recently. Like, yo, people didn't know who Juice was. I'm like, what? Let me show you the video of him freestyling.
You better find out. This dude,
Yeah.
he's one of the all-time
So, like,
freestylers too, man.
Right. So, like, you know, I always show people that type of stuff and things like that. But yeah, man, I love Chicago because, like I said, it represents the essence. It represents the new, the old, whatever wave or time period you want to pinpoint. It has a lot of beauty to the way it's made. It's made in hip hop music. And
I've had a couple guests on here recently that are from Miami and Florida, Southern Florida area. And kind of what you said before, I had no idea there was a scene. I mean, just think of Luke or, you know, some other stuff.
Right.
You know, that's it. I think of that kind of stuff. And that's kind of ignorance on my part, but they're schooling me and I'm finding out that it's a serious scene down there. Are you seeing that in Orlando too?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm not in. I'm in the sense. I'm central.
Oh, I got you.
Florida. So what's dope for me is like I'm in Southwest actually. What's dope for me is I'm 3 hours from everything. So
I see.
So I'm able to kind of go everywhere and see what it's like. But the one thing you just realize, like when you're younger, you know, you just think about what you got going on in your neighborhood. What's that? So you can't really fathom what's going on in other states. It's not really of a concern. It's not until you start traveling and seeing things like that. But it's definitely like, you know, when I go to Orlando, Nico is over there. He's down with Kweli. And then Juni Ali is over there. Midas is over there. But a lot of those people that are over there are actually from New York that live in Orlando too. So, you know, but I'm sure that there's some people over there that's definitely from Orlando that I probably can't think of it. But most of the people over there, like I said, they're from New York. But you don't really understand what's going on in these other regions until you go there, which is just how life is. You don't know what's going on somewhere until you go there.
That's true, man. And like you talked about before, you and JF about going to different countries and stuff, and your eyes get opened up to a whole new world and seeing how other things are like, and it's bigger than a little bit of bubble around where you grew up, your neighborhood and everything. So that's cool.
Yeah. We used to only be able to name how many rappers there were, and it only took us like about 2 hands to count, maybe a little more over.
Right.
There was a time of that. People probably don't really understand that. Like, there was a time when the TV, because there was no YouTube, so whatever made it to TV was your rappers.
Exactly.
You know, or whatever you heard on the radio was your rappers, and that was it. That was your selection. Now it's like, the kid tonight can upload something and we're like, yo, check out that new kid, you know.
It's your girl Reese, and you have been tuning in to Infinite Banter.
And I'd mentioned that, you know, of course, I saw you at the Double Door some years back when How I Do came out. Now, of course, for a lot of us, like me especially, that's the first time I was aware of your music. What's your backstory? How far before that were you recording music? And I'm guessing it goes back well before How I Do.
Well, honestly, How I Do was like pretty much like the beginning of me, like, you know, working on music. As far as like, if I compare things from then to now, it was kind of in the beginning part of it, just because a lot of those songs were from the first demo I ever made, like the demo tape I made. Like back in the day, you know, you make a demo tape. It's just like your songs that you've written or songs that you sang and gotten produced, and like you're giving this to different labels to listen to sign you, you know, and that's what I did in like the late 90s. And you know, someone liked those songs and they actually just signed us to a record deal. I went through a couple of labels, but then it just went to a label that wanted to sign it, and we re-released like most of the songs off the demo plus like 4 or 5 more, and you know, kept it moving, had the first album made. So it was really, you know, kind of a really good start, and you know, I really wouldn't change anything. And now we have a 20th anniversary.
That's crazy to think it's 20 years already.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
I
It's
feel
really
so
crazy,
old.
And I know, right? And it's, you know, but it's a good thing. It's like, you know, I'm excited that people still love the music. So that's like the most important thing.
Yeah, I just started playing it again this week in the car because, you know, that's always a true test to see how an album sounds. And yeah, Sitting Back is like one of my favorite songs. And I was playing that driving home from work tonight. I'm like, yeah, this is still a banger. This is still, you know, that album is just track after track. Is there a song that still stands out to you, or maybe just the whole album as a whole? But for me, Sitting Back is one of those that I always, because I'm a hip hop guy, so that one's always my go-to. But I mean, the whole album, I just love it.
Well, I'm you know, right now I feel like Let Love is like, that song like still sounds like if it came out today that it would be like a great song, you know?
Right.
And like people would like it. And yeah, that's the one that I feel like is like the one. And it's like kind of random, you know, but I feel like that's the one that just resonates still 20 years later.
And of course, you had a couple of videos off of there for They Say Vision and Golden Boys. Any memories of doing those 2 videos? You saw the Playboy hand wrist thing from the They Say Vision video?
Oh yeah, wow. That's just like, you know, stylists being like, oh, you should put this on, you know. And but it was, you know, it was a good time, and like I was really young, and I was really just like stoked to do a video, and I had like the people that worked on the album at the video shoot, you know, and it just, you know, those are the things that I remember.
We're here celebrating the 200 episodes of the Infinite Banter podcast. Thanks so much for checking it out. This next group here is really special because, you know, I'm an old dude and I grew up, you know, in hip hop music from the 80s. And these 3 guys right here represent, you know, pockets of time. Like when I hear their music, it brings me back to those days running around in Rogers Park and going to Armstrong grade school and having my Walkman on or whatever and playing songs that they were part of on that Walkman. So in this segment, we got a couple of DJs and a hip-hop icon here. So DJ Chill Will, Silver Spinner, and Spyder D are all going to be in this segment. We're going to kick things off with DJ Silver Spinner. He was on the show about a year ago, and he's from the group Whistle. And their song, Just Buggin', is just one of my favorite songs of all time. And it was really an honor to have him on talking about, you know, how that group came up and everything. So you're going to hear him first. Then you're going to hear Spyder D. Now, Spyder D is a guy who's very influential in those early days of hip-hop being put on record and being recorded. And, you know, he was down with Run DMC and Larry Smith in those early days. And he's just one of those icons, legends that I feel like should get more notoriety and flowers thrown their way. So Spyder D will be on second in this group. And last, but definitely not least, one of my favorite guests of all time. Whenever somebody asks me, like, what's an episode I should play first? My fallback is almost always play the DJ Chill Will episode. That's probably, you know, I mean, I'm going to be a politician here. I love everybody that's been on here. Every episode's been fun to do. There hasn't been any bad episodes. Well, there was one that never got aired. But I'll talk about that later. But if I had to say there's one that maybe someone should jump in, it would be this one. It would have been episode 86, which only makes sense because the album he's a big part of, Oh My God, Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh group came out in 86. I remember when I typed it up, episode 86, I was like, whoa, this number thing is just, this can't be a coincidence. It's working out this way. But anyway, DJ Chill Will, one of my favorite guests I've ever had on, one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. Here's a segment from him. Very hard to do just one segment because that whole episode was great. I could have just done the whole episode and called it, you know, the flashback segment. So here's Chill Will at the end of this segment here. So stay tuned. You've got Silver Spinner, Spyder D, and Chill Will here on the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast.
What's up, fam? This is your DJ Silver Spinner on Infinite Banter with your man, DJ Soundwave.
How about those first turntables? Were they pretty top notch? Were they kind of like Frankenstein together, like some kind of mixer or something?
No. I had it, and I forget the model number. It was a Newmark mixer, and everybody back then got the same mixer. The mixer was like $59, whatever it was, right?
Right.
But it was the Techniques SLB1s. So it was a belt-driven turntable. So when you were cutting it, you had to push it a little bit.
That's hard
because it's not direct. So dude, it's like learning how to drive on a stick shift in a car. I really learned how to DJ. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first set, like this really small Newmark mixer and 2 SLB1 turntables hooked up to my box.
You really said something there, man. You're talking about how, like, because it was a belt drive turntable, that kind of helped you actually learn more of a way of doing it better, because you've got to be more precise on how you hold it and put it back, because of the belt kind of brings it back for you without actually wanting it to, right?
Exactly. Because the belt, you know, and every so often you'd have to change the belt because the belt would wear out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So yes, if you didn't push it a little bit, it would sound kind of funny. But I got used to it, and then of course came the 1200s. You know,
game over.
Unstopped. Game over.
It's like, you're like, what's this belt crap?
It's game over.
There's a lot of people back then who were messing with their mom and dad's turntables, which are all probably belt driven too, and they probably got wrecked all the time. People try to do their thing on it. So
I'm sure.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So 13, you know what's coming. You know this is what you're gonna do, and then what's the time frame as far as the next step, as far as, like, you know, meeting Cool Doobie and Jazzy Jazz and everything? Yeah,
good question. Because let me tell you something, man. That neighborhood I grew up in East Flatbush was like a hotbed of talent, right? Because remember, there was no rap music, there was no hip hop artists. It was just a bunch of crews all over East Flatbush doing their thing, right? So it was us. And by the way, Silver Spinner, the name Silver Spinner, comes from the group that I was in called the Silver Spinners, right? So I wanted to pay homage to my boys because we set it off. So I kept the name The Silver Spinner, you know what I'm saying, to pay homage to my boys. But we were one crew. UFO was another crew, which turned out to be UTFO.
There you go.
QPSL, which Howie T was in. There was just like crews all over the neighborhood that were doing block parties and house parties. And that's how we were setting it off and battling each other in the neighborhood. So as we built up, you know what I'm saying, our reputation, you know, went from house parties to block parties to park events, and one thing just led to another. And it was a type of thing to where it wasn't even like we were looking for record deals. It's like it was like an inevitable thing to happen, because the first group in our neighborhood to set it off was Full Force. Right? Because Full Force is from the same area. UTFO, Real Roxanne, Lisa and Cult Jam, Howie T, Chub Rock, Special Ed, us. I mean, we're all from the same neighborhood. So when Full Force set it off, that was it. And it was like from Full Force went Lisa and Lisa to UTFO to us, and us to Howie, and Howie to Roxanne, and Roxanne to Chub Rock, and Chub Rock to Special Ed. It was just one thing after another, because it was inevitable. And it wasn't like I said, we were like out shopping demo deals, you know, sending like demo cassettes to A&R reps at record labels. That's not how it was. It was just, okay, cool, you're next. Bam, here you go.
Man, I mean, you just named like an all-star like lineup right there, which is crazy to think about. And a lot of them ended up on Select with you guys. Like Chub Rock was on Select Records, obviously UTFO. Yep. Talk about that era too, where it's like you guys are all doing this. Are you guys battling each other on the mic? Is there battles like with the DJ stuff? Like, how was that? Like, was there like any competition between any of you guys? Are you trying to like do groups together? How did that? I don't know. I'm trying to think of the dynamic of it all when you're all together like that.
Yeah. It's funny because yes, it sort of goes back to the first question you asked me about the Jamaican thing, right? It was similar in the sense that, like, if we set up on a block party and QPSL was set up on the same block party, you know what I'm saying, we would battle in the same sense. Like, I remember one in particular. We had a battle, and I forget the name of this crew out in Queens. And I don't even remember the name of the crew, but it doesn't matter because we rocked them. So we go out to Queens, we got all of our equipment, and it's about 7 of us in the Silver Spinners, right? So we get out there and we're doing our thing, and our system sounded cool, right? But we were all just a crew of DJs. There were no real MCs at that time. It was more about the DJ than it was an MC.
Right.
And then we would play for a half hour, then the other cats would play for a half hour. But the other dudes that were playing against us, their system was unbelievable. But the DJ sucked.
There it is. Right.
The DJ sucked. So when he played, people would listen for like the first few minutes. Then they would start to like fade on back over to our side. Then we started playing and we would start killing it. Then we stopped and then he started playing and people wouldn't leave us and they wouldn't go over to him.
There it is.
So it got to a point to where he just shut down and we played for the rest of the night. And that's how we did.
Yeah. That's great. And you have to say who that is if you even know. Say who's that DJ.
You know what? I truly don't even remember who the hell it was.
Nah, it's all right. He's probably not doing it after that much longer.
Yeah, I doubt it.
That's pretty cool to think about because you're right. You know, like you said, you're talking about all these people that come up in that area. And I'm thinking like as somebody who's just looking for somewhere to go, like I'm just like a fan or something, or just want to hear some good music. I'm like, where do I go? Which party do I go to? Which block do I go to? Okay, I'm going over here because they keep it live over here. And over here it just seems like, it's all right, but I'm going to go over here where these guys are going.
Exactly. That's how we got there.
You know, again, working with, people like DJ Molly Mall. I can keep naming people. DJ Doc, Ivan Rodriguez.
One of the greatest producers, DJs of all time right there. Talk about how you guys first met.
Well, he came when I was signed to Russell Simmons' Rush Productions Artist Management. Doc had come up to the office. Curtis Blow, my man, Curtis Blow, who I just talked to or texted with the other day, Curtis Blow used to get most of the demos that would come into Russell's office. Russell would give them to Curtis first and let Curtis listen to them and decide whether he wanted to work with the artist or not. So most of the things that Curtis would turn down would get passed on to me.
Oh, I see. You'd get the leftovers.
Yeah. I was like, I get Kurt's hand-me-down.
Oh, man. But there's probably some gems in there, right? Some real talent in there that maybe got overlooked.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
Well, Kurt.
Yeah.
Kurt was hot. Kurt
right.
was hot. He was way hot.
King of rap at the time.
Kurt didn't really have time. Yeah, he didn't have time for all that. Kurt was doing sold-out arena shows and stadiums and whatnot back then. So, I got a hold of Doc's original demo. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was that bad. And it was different because it was from a Latin flavor. His MC was Latin. And then I went on to find out that Doc had just graduated from the Audio Institute of Technology, which is a big deal. So this kid had graduated from learning how to be a recording engineer, and he was a DJ, which I thought was a very unique combination to invoke into the genre of hip-hop. And so that was how I met Doc. And again, I was recording at Power Play Studios. So I told Doc, if he wanted the job, I'd introduce him to Tony Arfey, the owner of Power Play Studios. And, he would definitely be a help to the studio because most of the engineers at Power Play were rock and roll engineers. They weren't hip hop engineers.
Right.
So here we have a Latin kid who's graduated engineering school and is a DJ. He'd be the perfect combination to work at Power Play as Power Play was transitioning from a rock and roll rehearsal studio into a hip hop catered recording studio. So that was like perfect. Doc started doing KRS-One, EPMD, MC Light.
List, man.
It was like everybody came to Power Play because they wanted the sound that Doc was engineering for the groups that I just named.
And that's big too, right? Because Doc was trained, like you said, he had an education and in a lot of that early hip hop, right? It's kind of learning on trial by error.
He knew how to, like, for example, me, I began engineering with none of the knowledge Doc had. I was what you call a trial by error engineer. I just turned the knob one way to the other until it sounded right.
Yeah.
Doc already knew where to turn the knob. You know, he already knew how to set the EQs. He already knew how to block out noise using noise gates and all of these technical jargons that I had no idea. He knew about decibel levels. I didn't know a decibel from a crescimal.
There you go. It's like a Jedi Master in there, man.
I was strictly by ear. I did everything by ear. And Doc could take what I could hear by ear and translate it into an actual audio signal by knowing where to turn the knob. So, you know, it just goes to show you in this music business, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like you got some musicians who can't read music, but they can play you up under the table playing a bass, a keyboard, a guitar, whatever. Don't know how to read the music on a music chart, but they can play it. Like, for example, Davey DMX, my childhood school and classmate. Davey can pick up anything and play it. I've never seen anybody like him. You could hum something to Davey, and he'd go play it just as you hummed it to him. It wouldn't even be his interpretation. It'd be just like you hummed it to him, and he could play it on any instrument. I've never seen anything like how he can do it. He was just born naturally talented as a musician. And, you know, Davey, of course, ended up being Curtis Blow's DJ. He ended up making the classic. In fact, that's how I got to Power Play Studios. Davey D did One for the Treble at Power Play Studios. I think that might have been the first hip-hop record recorded at Power Play Studios. That's really what started it all.
Right.
One for the Treble. Davey played everything on One for the Treble. He did everything but the girl's voice saying, Davey D, you are the best. That's the only thing Davey didn't do on that record. He played all of the instruments. He did all of the scratching. He basically co-engineered the project along with Julian Hertzfeld, who was the engineer of choice that I chose at Power Play for most of my projects before I learned how to engineer and before Doc came in. I've been blessed, man. I've had an incredible bunch of people around me that made me better.
Yo, this is DJ Chill Will with Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew, and you're listening to Infinite Banter with my man, DJ Soundwave. Let's go.
Yeah, Biz was really, really like that was one that was really, that was a rough one there. You know, me and Biz been friends since 1982. Wow. You know, I met Biz when none of us were on. But when I met Biz, nobody had a record out. None of us. You know, we were all trying to get on at this point. And then once I met Biz came up to the city because Biz from Long Island, and we were in Harlem. So Biz came up to Harlem, went to see Doug. You know, Doug didn't have nothing that he really wanted, but just to be around Doug and do stuff. But, you know, we talking about 1982, 1983. Then we had those hip-hop tapes from Harlem World with, you know, the Kubo D battle and all that stuff and the Cold Crush and all those things. So he wanted copies of all of that. So Biz would come, be on the phone on the corner. He'd come to my house. He'd come to my neighborhood, go to the payphone on the corner and be like, yo, I'm outside. I mean, outside where? He's like, outside your house. I was like, okay. He's like, yo, I want to try to get some copies of the tapes. I'm like, all right. I'm sleeping, but, you know, you can come back at a
Well, the Biz never sleeps. He told you that on an album, right? Yeah.
Right. You come back at a decent hour, you know, or whatever. He said, I'll be out here. He said, yo, let me give you this phone number to this phone here on the corner. I was like, all right. So he gives me the phone number. So it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. He said, I'm probably going to go grab something to eat or whatever. I call back at like 11 o'clock. He picks up the phone. And there's a phone outside in the street, you know, on the corner. And he's like, what's up? I said, yo, I'm good. If you wanna come through. So then he comes through. They spent the whole day at my house. I mean, he came at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it's 8 o'clock at night. He's still at my house. And this went on for like 3 months, almost every other day.
Wow.
You know, and this is he wasn't at my house. He was at Barry's house. He'd go to Barry's house, he'd go to my house. He just switching back and forth, and just coming back and forth when that just was him. And then we became the closest and the best of friends, throughout this whole thing because we ended up getting on and doing our thing. And then he ended up getting on and all this stuff. And it was just crazy, man. And we was just like, Biz is one of my best friends, and in this music business, because I've known him for so long and I've known him before he was Biz Mark,
Right.
and it was just, I've gone to Biz's house, Biz has come to my house after we've all made records and had our own houses now. Because he was coming to my mother's house back then.
Right.
But now, he's coming to, he come to my house, I go to his house or whatever. And it's just, we stayed friends all the way up until he passed. We've been friends the whole time. We talk all the time on the phone. We see each other. Biz came here, which was one of the things that made me say, he came. I live in Charlotte. I live in North Carolina now. He came to Charlotte just to see me.
That's awesome.
Man. I don't got no show. I don't got nothing. I'm just coming to hang out. I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do here. It ain't like New York. So we actually just went to eat. We sat and talked for a long time. We talked about all the stuff we've been through, this and that. Me and Biz did. I brought him on the Tom Joyner cruise. I booked for Tom Joyner Fantastic Voyage. I brought him on there. We sat at a table exchanging music for 5 hours.
Wow.
And they said, y'all still sitting at this table? We like, yep. So computers and all, And so, Biz was a real good friend with me, man. Me and Biz were really close.
Is that the same Tom Joyner? Because I had Kool Ski on here, and he talked about him and Mark working with Doug. Is that the same?
I brought Kool Ski in. I brought Fat Boys on there.
Yeah.
Same one. We did one show with everybody.
Right.
We did one big show. It was Fat Boys, Houdini, EPMD, Common. Who else was on? It was a Naughty by Nature.
Wow.
And then we didn't do, hey, here's Naughty by Nature. Oh, here's EPMD. We did one show and brought everybody out at back to back to back to back. Everybody not doing 5 songs. Hip Hop Parade, OPP. That's all Naughty did. But they did it in EPMD did 2-3 songs. Houdini did 2 songs. By the time you finish, it's an hour and a half in. You know what I'm saying? Common come out and did a song. He was breakdancing and everything. It was like bananas. It was incredible. And then we ended with Hip Hop Parade, and that was an incredible show, like incredible. If we had that on film, that could sell right now.
You're checking out the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. Thanks for checking out the show. Really big episode and really huge milestone for me to be doing this many episodes. This next group here is kind of personal. My guy DJ Real One is in it. A dude who I've known for a long time, and the only person that has been in the house recording an episode with me, and he's done it twice. So he's on another level, and nobody's at that level yet. When one of these guests want to come here in the studio, the dining room area, and do the show, they're welcome to do so. But the only one who's done that is my guy DJ Real One, and this is going way back, so you could just kind of hear kind of the early era here and just like how things got started. And then after him, you can hear E.C. Illa. So I'm kind of keeping it like a Chicago theme. He's one of the all-time great MCs, not just in Chicago, but, just one of them dudes that when you hear him on the mic, you know that you're hearing somebody who's a real spitter and a legend. So E.C. Illa came on the show. Funny stories, I actually interviewed him twice, but the other time was for a different podcast. Shout out to Catch 22 and the Head Knock Radio podcast. There's an episode, you can find it on Spotify and places like that, where I interviewed E.C. Illa a couple years before when I actually had him on here. I believe he was on episode 150, which is a landmark episode as well. So yeah, me and E.C. Illa on here talking about Rogers Park and stuff like that. And to round out this group, this is probably when I was thinking about which ones to bring back, this is the part that made me laugh the most. I just remember this episode being hilarious and talking to my guy Chubs. He's an MC out in New York, and just had such a great time talking with him. And there was a segment we were talking about eating spaghetti at a strip club. It was just hilarious. It makes me laugh to this day. I think about that segment a lot. And when I first started cutting up these, I was like, I'm bringing that one back just because I think it's hilarious. So I guess this is the white boy segment. DJ Real One, E.C. Illa, and Chubs. Man, I did not plan it that way, but that is exactly how it turned out. All right, here we go. The white dudes in hip-hop segment. DJ Real One, E.C. Illa, and Chubs coming up here on the 200th episode segment of the Infinite Banter podcast.
Yo, what's good? It's your man, DJ Real One, and I'm here live with the one and only DJ Soundwave Infinite Banter podcast, representing 200 episodes. Now, I'm proud to say that I'm one of the few who have tuned in to all 200 episodes. Yes, that's right. I listened to episodes that span the range of AJ Styles all the way to Kool Ski, all the way to The Walking Dead, and occasionally some Comic-Con talk, which is not my thing. But the way that DJ Soundwave does it, he makes it super interesting, and he makes that podcast life, he represents it to the fullest. So we are going to keep this thing going for 200, 300, 400, 500 episodes, and we are going to just keep bantering on the same way that I'm doing right now. We are going to banter on about AJ Styles, about DJ Real One, about real hip hop, about comic books, about nerd stuff, about horror movies. We're going to do that, man. Banter infinitely with the one and only DJ Soundwave. And I am DJ Real One, the number one supporter of the podcast. And on that note, I'm out. Peace, y'all.
All right, checking out the Infinite Banter podcast. I am Mark Jolliffe, a.k.a. DJ Soundwave, but a real DJ's in the building. The one and only, the realest of ones, DJ Real One. What's up, man?
What up, Soundwave? I'm back in the building, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man, it's crazy. We were just talking about this before you came on. The 26 is the first time I ever recorded one of these, and you were like the first and the second guest to be in the house to record, so big up there. But, I mean, like, you're one of the first guests that ever come on this, so, you know, big up to Real One and for blessing me with this podcast and helping me get it started, because you help, you know, it's like the DJ Real One Foundation, like Save the Music. You helped get this thing going in the first place, so, you know, big up, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me back, man. You know, I always love coming by. And it's funny, every time I stop by, I see the computer, I see the setup, and I'm happy that you're putting it to use, man. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I just want to let you know that.
There's one, you guys. Listen, there's one
I'm
there.
A major fan, man. I listen to every episode. And as you know, I'm not even into wrestling. I'm into sports, but I'm not, like, heavy into it. But that's where I get a lot of my information from, just so you know.
Yeah, this dude is... You didn't wear your AJ Styles shirt because I know you're a big fan.
Oh, stop it, dude.
And me and Akrobatik talked about him in the last episode.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. I don't know if you got to that part yet, but dude, there's some real wrestling talk for about 10 minutes in there. So be ready.
So for all my Infinite Banter fans out there, you will not be hearing wrestling talk today. So sorry to disappoint you there. And you might not hear any Walking Dead talk. But
it comes out tonight. You really don't watch it anymore, man? You have no idea what's happening?
It's funny because I remember the last time I was on the show, we actually talked about Walking Dead, and I think that was probably the last time I saw it. They really lost me, and then I canceled.
What was it that lost
too.
you? Because a lot of people lost it when Negan was beating in, spoiler, two dudes' heads that were
that was
instrumental
a long
to the
time
show.
ago, yeah.
But a lot of people, that's when they checked out.
Really?
You stuck through
I stuck around longer than I should have, I'll tell you that much. But I pretty much made it all the way to the helicopter episode.
Oh, so once Rick left, you did the piece?
I mean,
you did
come
two
on,
fingers
man.
up?
When they had like the adult, what was her name? I don't even know her name anymore. The adult, when the kids became adults.
Judith?
Judith, yeah, it was just silly, man.
Yeah, she's running around with his gun and his hat.
Yeah,
she's like 6 years old, telling people to like be quiet and talking to Negan in the prison or whatever. Yeah, it's weird.
So that's pretty much where I stopped there. So all my podcast fans out there, that's all the talk we're gonna say today.
I will say this before I finish it though. You're a horror fan like myself. There's some really cool stuff with the whispers, with the skin mask. I think you would dig some of that stuff, but if you already kind of left, it'd be hard for you to jump back.
True.
This is E.C. Ella, Chicago's finest, and you are checking out the Infinite Banter podcast with DJ Soundwave, hooking it up.
Talk about growing up in Chicago, man. I know it's a big question, but what was like the area you grew up in? What was it like around there? Because like for me, it was... definitely it was cool. I'm glad I grew up in Chicago because it helped mold the person I am today, and obviously exposed me to hip-hop music and a lot of other great things. But growing up for you, what was your upbringing like as far as the neighborhood you were in?
Well, as you know, growing up in Rogers Park, you know that it's extremely diverse.
Right.
Like I might say, and I'm not playing, perhaps the most diverse area in the world.
That's a statement there.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about all the different nationalities that have set up shop far north in the Rogers Park area, but also the Uptown area, which is where I spent my childhood, and they're close to each other. But growing up in Uptown, it was a unique experience. You know, there was a large Native American population, a large Alaskan population. So there were people that, you know, we had access to each other, be it black, white, Hispanic, but then a lot beyond that, you know, on down to Argyle and the Asian community there. So there was a lot of interaction and borrowing culturally that was occurring in that area, or those areas for that matter, that likely wasn't happening in many other places in the world, you know. So you were likely to create all types of individuals, EC Illa included.
Yeah, and you know what? It took me, like, maybe for yourself as well, when you start to branch out and you start to go to different areas of the city or even the suburbs or obviously like another state or another city, you start to realize what you just said really hits home, that it is diverse. Because as a kid, I didn't think of it as diverse. I just thought this is how it was. Like, this is regular. This is normal.
Right. No, it's definitely extremely unique experience, and you might not know it unless you've had other experiences. But, you know, when people would travel up north from the south and west sides to do business with me, and they may have, you know, very little experience on the far north side, it was notable to them. So I began to see what was unique and special about it through other people. Because as you mentioned, when it's all you know, you're not looking at it as unusual in any way. But when people came and, you know, found it to be outside of the norm, I began to realize this was kind of a special place that I was coming up in.
Man, it just makes that pride that much more, right? I mean, it's like, yo, this is where I'm from, and I'm proud of this is where I came up. Because you could have came up somewhere else, maybe you have a different point of view, a different idea on how things are, and it might change your mentality on things. But and then, you know, you go from that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, as you know, there wasn't outside of locally, there wasn't much north side representation happening with regard to hip hop or Chicago hip hop for that matter. So, you know, Common was representing hard for the South Side, and there was a large array of Southsiders who were making moves. And same goes for the West Side. And while a lot was happening up north, very little of it was reaching beyond up north. So it was actually pretty special to me land the role of, you know, the representation of Rogers Park, Uptown, or the north side of Chicago, once I was able to get a foothold outside of the city. So that meant a lot to me, you know, and even in these years that have passed, though there have been, you know, artists that have made it out of our area, it's minimal, to say the least.
Yeah, it's Chubs, you're not listening to Infinite Banter, you motherfucker. I'm an Italian, so...
Oh, man.
I was representing my Guinea heritage.
Yeah, I need to check that one out, man. That's on YouTube, you said? There's a video for it?
Yeah, there's a video already out for it and shit. You see my cousin Tank next to me. He's the guy with 4 eyes. He has 4 of them. They're not Versace shades, though.
That's awesome.
Chest hair all around. Yeah, his chest hair is out.
Well, you have to.
Yeah, we were sitting there eating pasta in the strip club. It was a glorious day.
Back when you can do that. I don't know if they're around anymore, but yeah.
We shut down the club. It was just us in there.
Oh, yeah, of course. Once you saw the hair.
It was us, the girls, and the pasta, cuz.
Man, that's a triple threat right there. You don't need anything else after that.
It got messy. You gotta look it up, bro. Prepare yourself.
Dude, as soon as I hang up, I'm going to look at it, dude. Are you kidding me? I haven't been to a strip club in like years. Bring back some memories, except for the pasta part.
No, that's the whole thing, cuz you got to watch. When outside's open, next time you come to New York, you ever been to New York?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I've been there a couple times, yeah.
Next time you come to New York, we're going to bring you to Long Island. We're going to bring you to a real gutter Long Island strip club. You heard?
Oh, shit.
We're going to eat some pasta. We're going to fucking drink some fucking E&J and ginger ale, all right? We're going to pour up Siempre. We're going to get fucking real nuts, bro. We're going to fucking have you meet a girl with 5 kids and a C-section line, and she's going to give you the best fucking lap dance you ever had in your life.
That's the best. She's trying to keep those lights on. That's why she's working so hard.
That's it, because you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody's got to pay for that daycare.
No.
That's the dude sitting there. He's got to pay for it. Damn right.
Damn right, bro. And they'll bring you fucking pasta a la carte, cuz. All right? They just roll up the cart and they just serve you pasta right on your plate. It's just a regular thing.
That's just crazy to think of, eating food in that kind of place. It's just not something you would think about.
Glorious at the same time.
Yeah. I wonder if they got a drive-through in case you can't stick around. But
then you get a sweat going sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, picture that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're killing me over here. Man, I'm serious about my pasta too, so that's kind of a weird environment to be eating at, but hey.
When you come to New York, we're going to show you how to get down.
The pasta's good, too. It ain't no
I
bull.
bet.
No, the pasta, good. You're going to be eating good fucking quality pasta.
Not that Prince stuff out the box, right? Yeah.
Good. I know Chicago's got some shit.
Yeah, we don't fuck around out here either.
No, I know, because I've had some Chicago Italian food, and I'm like, okay, all right, Chicago.
Yeah. We're always known for pizza, beef, Italian beef, hot dogs, all that bullshit.
Y'all got good food there.
Yeah, that's why we stay, semi out of shape out here. We can't get fit out here.
Too, because we're like, bash. We're those fat guys sitting at the table just talking sports. I'm like, Nick.
Man. I used to work at sports radio, so I know those people. I'm aware of their existence. So, yeah, I got you on that one.
Like, fucking Nick.
Yeah, that's fucking Bears.
There you go.
That quarterback is garbage.
Yeah, that's that real fucking. That's that Chicago shit.
Where's the backup? They always like the backup out here, man.
It's the backup.
When are they gonna play the backup guy? He looked good in preseason. What's wrong with him? With the clipboard and a backwards hat.
Where's your dad?
Where's your dad?
He's at the strip club eating pasta. He's busy.
He's at the strip club eating pasta. Exactly.
Eating fettuccine with some chick named Diamond.
Yeah, putting strippers' kids through college. That's where he.
Let me get another plate. I'm gonna be here a while. Yeah.
Seconds and then thirds. Don't even ask. Just bring the third time.
Where's Bambi? I'm hungry. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Nice.
Man, salute to you guys, man. Both of you dudes, and have a great Friday. Smoke them joints, man.
Oh yeah, you already know, bro. When you come here, we're smoking joints at the strip club. We're eating fucking penny olive.
Cannibal Club, baby.
CC the Click, Cannibal Club. Shout out to the squad.
There it is. I can't let the wife hear this one. She don't listen anyway, but it's the one for sure I'm gonna definitely steer her away from.
What? Damn, I feel bad now.
We ain't trying to get you in
No. Trust me, man. I'm a grown ass man, man. I
He was like, "You're not going to New York. Why are you going to New York? You going? Your friend chubby guy, huh? You going to eat pasta in the strip club? You piece of shit."
We're done. I thought we were going to see the Statue of Liberty, you piece of shit. You told me. We're going to Ellis Island. What happened?
We're just going to sightseeing, hon. That's all.
They're the best pasta.
Yeah, want to eat Italian food in the city.
I'll definitely, when I come out there, I'll definitely hit you guys up and see what's going down with some pasta.
Let's do it, bro. Push-ups in the park, bro.
Man,
couple cheeseburgers after.
Yeah, there it is. Let's back
go.
About 30 pounds heavier.
Let's go. Boy.
You're checking out the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. We're going to wrap up all the flashbacks here with the final segment. And this group is kind of basically, legends in the game. A couple of them are from an earlier era. A couple of them are from like the 90s era. And they're still going to this day. You got 4 hip-hop icons in this grouping. We got Young Z, you know him from The Outsiders, and he's done a lot of great work on the independent scene and worked with Eminem. He's going to kick it off here. A lot of fun talking with him. I remember he was, you could hear it in the interview. If you go back and play it, there's some lighters being lit throughout that interview. Second, my man Kool Kim, been on the show a couple times. Definitely consider him a friend and appreciate all that he's done for this podcast and helped me kind of grow it as well. And, his constant ribbing me about how much I hate Vanilla Ice, but kind of making me feel like I'm supposed to like him. So salute to Kool Kim. You'll hear him. Second. Third is my man Money B. I remember interviewing him during COVID when we were stuck in the house. It was crazy. Maybe that's why I got to interview him, because we're all stuck in the house and we're looking for something to do. And he was more than gracious and tells a great story about Shock G and Humpty Hump here. And last but definitely not least is Kool Ski from the Fat Boys. He's been on the show twice. Kool Ski and Kool Kim, they both were guests on my 50 Years of Hip Hop episode. Definitely go back and check it out if you've not heard that. But Kool Ski's been on the show a couple times and definitely a good dude, and really was excited to have him on. One of my favorite episodes I did with him was early on as well. So this final grouping, you can hear some stuff from the old days and stuff from not so old days, but still old. Because Young T talks about Eminem. So stay tuned. Here we go. The final grouping here on the 200th episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. In order, you're going to hear Young Z, Kool Kim, Money B, and Kool Ski here on the Infinite Banter podcast. 200 damn episodes.
DJ Soundwave, I'm about to shoot someone tonight. Let's go. Let's play this shit.
And it'd be hard for me to, talk about the old days and not bring up Eminem. You guys have a long history together. Yeah, talk about the first time you met that cat and when you knew this dude was special.
I actually met them when I was on tour with the Fugees. And you know what I mean? Bizarre played some shit on the headphones for me. I was like, bet. So, he came out to see me in Jersey, stayed at my crib. And then, it was history. M came out there, stayed at my crib. We started working. You know what I mean? Introduced him to Paul Rosenberg. And we started trying to get him a deal. Then Paulie got the meeting with Dre. It was a wrap. Over. Touring, everything. That's when it really turned up to fun. Because we was having fun with the Outsiders, but it was a whole different kind of fun. It was like going up fun. Like on the tours with M, it was like top tier fun. Like, you know what I mean? I've been out with like tons of artists on tour. Red, Run DMC, motherfucking EPMD. I've been tons of people on tour. And this guy is the only guy you go back to his room at like 4 a.m. It's like lobsters, fresh tuna melt, and bottles of wine and champagne everywhere. He don't even be wanting that shit. I'll be writing that motherfucker like,
living that life.
But nah, fun times.
That's great, man. Yeah, that's and you just brought up a couple of legendary acts. I mean, being on stage at Run DMC, EPMD, that's got to be something to think about.
Was my friend, bro.
Man,
I'm talking about come to my house, chill, cook shit while I'm doing some other shit. I go to his house. I go to his studio. His artist was Joe Sinister back then. You remember Joe Sinister?
Yeah, a little bit, right.
Yeah, that was his artist. That was my bro and shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I used to come out there, fuck with Joe Sinister in the studio and shit. Jam Master Jay was going to sign Pace because I was already signed, so he was going to sign Pace.
Yo, what up, yo? It's your friendly neighborhood fly guy, Kool Kim, and I wanted to take a moment to congratulate my brother DJ Soundwave on reaching 200 episodes of Infinite Banter podcast. And I want to keep it real, first of all, because honestly, if we being real, it's not 200 episodes. I was on 2 of these episodes, all right? And from the 2 episodes I did, he cut them things up and then ran each one of them joints back and over again like a Channel 11 repeat, okay? And then called it 200 episodes, but really it's more like 112 episodes because you know what I'm saying? Like this guy, listen, man, you want to go with it, congratulations, 200, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But me and you know what's up, bro. Big love, all that, you know what I mean? But all right, whatever.
Before you're part of the UMCs and everything, do you remember like some of your earliest memories of hip hop, music, culture, anything? Something come to mind when you first start to think about everything that's happened?
I think of dances.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I think of dances, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because all right, so before I'm rapping, I'm breakdancing. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get in Beach Street. I went to the big breakdance contest at the Roxy Roller Rink, and I jumped. I was on the stage when me and my brother had a routine, and I was on there to breakdance and get busy. You know what I'm saying? And I got invited back to do the next thing. You know what I'm saying? And
we all know you got that move. We seen it. With the UMCs, the flip leg spin. Which I saw you still got it, man. You brought it back. You were showing on Instagram.
That's my Street Fighter Ken Ryu.
There it is.
That's what that is. You know what I'm saying? No, but I think of that, but I also think of, when I say I think of dances, to be honest with you, I think of like the WAP and the James Brown and the Happy Feet and the Bismarcky, and all of those type of dances that we would do when we would go to the park jams, which would be like the summer jams that the city throws, and we would perform at those, and like that feeling, bro. I think of my bro Derek's cousin Sharon. She was a dope MC, yo. You know what I mean? But life ain't make that possible for her to come out. But as she came out, she'd have been huge. She was dope, man. You know what I'm saying? 17 years old, 17 with pride. That's my age. Yo, she was nice, right? And I just think of these beautiful moments that are like, like what's this, the Sandlot or whatever like that, the movie where
the
they
baseball
just
movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah, where you just like, this is my storied childhood. And I think of when I first got the words to Rapper's Delight. My mother was a police officer. Back then they was Xerox stuff that was viral. You did something that people Xerox and passed around, that you were viral. I was like the first version of viral. And she came home with a folded up copy of Rapper's Delight that had been Xeroxed.
Oh man,
that was typed out.
That's crazy.
And she thought it was funny, and like it was. She brought it home because it was like a gag, and she brought it over for me to see it. Man, I remember opening up that piece of paper, bro, and it was like it just light shone from off the paper. The words just rose up in the air, started swirl around me, like, you know what I'm saying, like Zelda or something.
There it is.
You know what I'm saying, like yo. And then I was just mystified. I was taken to an entire different reality. And I mean, it was probably my gift and curse, because, on one hand, it was everything, you know what I'm saying? And it's made me the person that I am. And on the other hand, I was trapped in it. Like I couldn't let it go. Even at 52 years old, man, I can't let this go. It's not something that I ever intend on. It's my hobby. It's my passion. It's my talent rests in there. One of them at least, but the one I love the most. So yeah, man, those thinking about them park jams. I remember I seen the Fat Boys, you know what I'm saying, had come to Staten Island and performed, you know what I'm saying? And things like that, man, was just like, it was amazing, bro. Like I can't adequately describe how the energy that was in the air. And it wasn't so violent back then,
right?
Either. So it wasn't like, you would have a park jam and every time it got shot up, every time it got turned out. It wasn't that wild like that. You know what I'm saying? Plenty of park jams was just fun. You know what I'm saying? Just fun. I remember, we used to go to Jones Beach, man. That was a big thing for the Greek picnic. Everybody, Greek or not, would come out to Jones Beach.
There you go.
And then they would have people who would perform on the stage, man. The best of the best in that time would be up there rocking. I mean, those are really amazing. I'll tell you another one I remember from hip hop. And this is one that a lot of people don't remember, but I remember. The walkathon. So they used to have the walkathon was like one of those type of things where you go jogging and you get sponsors, and those sponsors are gonna pay money and donate it to whatever the cause is of the walk or the run or the jog, 4K jog or whatever. That was the walkathon. It would be like from Lower Manhattan up to Harlem, or up to up deep into Central Park, which will lead you into Harlem once you get to the other side.
Yeah, there's a lot of miles there, right?
Long walk.
Yeah.
But see, that was where sneaker culture comes in. Because sneaker culture and hip hop manifests there because everybody was on set for the walkathon. All the hottest rap acts would be somewhere in the crowd walking on the walkathon. You understand? People be out there with their little tape decks, their boom boxes outside representing. And
what year was this? Do you remember what year this was? Like, what was some of the songs I'd be hearing?
I would say it'd be the same year. Whatever year Cameo came out with that song Candy.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the heights of the walkathon. Okay. Because I remember I had my first hot top fade joint was way up here, man, like up there type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like Kid playing had nothing on me. You heard?
There it is.
And when I had the hot top, and when that high at that point though, it was still growing high. But I was one of the first people that was wearing it. I'm not trying to say I was the first person to have it, but I was like one of the first people I saw. And I know I was because I was at the walkathon, and every time I was walking, everywhere I walked, everybody was start playing that song, "Tastes Like Candy," because whatever Blackman,
Larry Blackman,
Harry Blackman, the lead singer, he had that hot top.
Yeah, man.
So everybody was playing it because of that. You know what I'm saying? So every time it played, everybody was like, yo, I do a little something or another, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, but
Yeah, man. You know, so when you were out at the walkathon, wherever you was from, you was trying to get freshly dipped. So that there was like this great trade, like this great
So you want to look good while you're walking. You want to have the right
so you
shoes,
gotta
the
get
gear,
freshly dipped, the best
everything.
sneakers.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's how it was in the days. But these things, like the city jams, that the city summer fest type of jams, the walkathon, you know what I mean, and you know, those dances, you know, those different dances we had like that, I think are serious staples in how hip hop grew.
What up, what up? It's your man Money B from Digital Underground, Raw Fusion, and Money B and Young Hump representing that Bay all day. And of course, I cool out and I'm rocking with Infinite Banter, if you didn't know. So the Humpty Dance, it changed all of our lives, right? It hit the world by storm. You know, when we made it, we thought it was a great song, you know, but just because it's a great song doesn't mean it's going to be a hit record, you know, in the eyes of the world. You know, shout out to Tommy Boy. They got it out there the way it was supposed to get out there. And it was just something fresh and new. And it took the world by storm. And it ended up, you know, selling, I don't know where it's at now, but I know it was end of 1990, it was double platinum, you know, and that kind of put us on the map.
And what did you first think of the whole Humpty Hump, you know, gimmick persona when he started pulling that out? Were you like, what? This is bugged out. What are you doing? You're just like a pimp with like, the nose, eyeglasses. Was it like crazy to you, or did you guys get it right away?
I kind of got it right away because remember I told you I was introduced to Shock. He was a character, even in the introduction. And as soon as you get to know him and you become part of the group, you're also introduced to these other characters like MC Blowfish and Rackadelic, you know, a few other personas that he had even before Humpty Hump was invented. And so when he was like, okay, this is going to be the guy that does this, and he kind of, you know, mimicked it, I was like, for sure, let's do it. You know, I wasn't in no way or shape did I ever go against the grain of that because I got it. It was just something new. And I was like, why not try it? You know what I mean?
And I remember when I first saw that Shock and Humpty were the same dude, I was like, seriously? I didn't catch it right away. Were a lot of people surprised when they found out that it was not two separate dudes?
Were a lot of people surprised?
Spoiler, by the way. They're
yeah,
not two. It's the same dude.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you know, even to this day, people still argue that. And just the fact that we were able to kind of string people along for so long is just amazing to me. So it's kind of like, you know, Humpty Hump is a character like Batman, right? So we always had someone that could play it. Even from day one, sometimes his Shock's brother Kent would play him. He had two of his other friends, you know, in different 8x10s or photo shoots, or even in the same song video.
I was about to ask about that one. Yeah,
his brother in a few scenes, his brother is Humpty Hump because his brother looks like him. So it was fun to be able to pull off this facade that it was two people, but you know, you either believed in the character or not. So even when we know that Batman's not real, but Batman is real.
Wait a minute. Are you serious? Batman's
You know
not
what I'm
real,
saying?
Money B?
Yeah, but he is real. Meaning like there's a Batman, like he exists. So when you see Batman on television, the cartoon, you be like, what's on? It's Batman. And it's the character that we believe in. We know that's when we see the cape, that's Batman. So, you know, whether it's played by, you know, whoever through the years, or even 007, James Bond,
right?
You know, Roger Moore or whoever else played him back in the day to the guy who's playing him now. It looks different every time, but it's still 007. It's still James Bond. We know how he acts. We know what he does. We know he drinks martini, shaking nuts third, you know, with the women. Same thing with Humpty Hump.
Right.
It's always, you know, you see the nose, you see the clothes, and you see the hose. You know, it's Humpty Hump.
Yeah, what's up? This your boy, the legendary Kool Ski from the legendary Fat Boys. I'm here on Infinite Banter, and we're going to rock the house. Yes, sir.
You know, the elements of hip-hop are so big, and I feel like the Fat Boys really did a great job of trying to make sure that, you know, Buffy Human Beatbox is a big element of what you guys put on Wax, and of course MCing with you and Mark, and you guys even had DJing and everything in there. I mean, just talk about how important it was for you guys to always have those elements involved with the music you guys are putting out.
Buff being a huge part of the group, being 50% of the success of, you know, easily without a doubt, because nobody never seen anything like that. nobody never seen nothing. I mean, we came with Brother Stickum as far as just having the acapella version of it. It just blew people away. And I always say to this day, Buff, Dougie Fresh, Biz Markie, may he rest in peace, Rozelle, Human Jockbox, these guys, they made a lane for themselves. They made a huge lane for themselves, and they put themselves in the 5 elements, which is like the 6th element of hip hop right now, because beatboxing, it transferred over to people in high schools and junior high schools doing it. You know, when they couldn't bang on the tables, they started getting the beatbox. Somebody do the beatbox for them. So they were a huge influence on the hip hop culture. And like I said, Buff is just, you know, I'm trying to put together the Human Beatbox Day and have a day just for Buff.
That would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So June 10th is going to be Human Beatbox Day. So I'm pushing to put that out there. But yeah, Buff and, you know, even the DJ, you know, you have DJs like Grandmaster D. Houdini and Jam Master J, you know, DJ, Jazzy Jeff, you know, the list goes on and on.
Right.
You know, these guys just played a huge part. You know, they played the biggest, in some cases, the biggest part of this hip hop culture. You know, what would the rapper be without the DJ? You know what I'm saying? So the DJ enhances the rapper and makes him better, you know, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said at the very beginning, man. It was all about the DJs in the park. So, I mean, that's the start of it. So you can't overlook that and forget the foundation, right?
Right. You can't. And I see these new wave of rappers now, they're kind of excluding the DJ. They don't even have DJs on stages anymore. And those who do have DJs, he's just there as a prop almost. And I'm like, you know, that's not cool. You gotta have a segment where the DJ just gets loose like we did back in the day. You know, the DJ Jazzy Jeff would just get loose in the turntable. Jam Master J would just get loose. We even had Buff get loose in the beatbox. You know, so,
right.
We don't want to lose the intricate parts of this hip hop culture and who built it up. You know, whether it be the rapper, the DJ, the beatbox, the breakdancing, the graffiti, we don't want to lose that. You know what I'm saying? But I think every day we're getting away from it.
Right.
Because I think the new crop of entertainers that's coming along, they don't abide by those rules anymore. You know, they just rapping just to be rapping.
Right.
And a lot of the content has no meaning to it. You know.
Yeah.
And they think that's what it's about, but it's not about that. They have to do some studying on this culture. They got to do their homework on the culture.
Time for you to leave, assholes.
That is Kirk Acevedo doing what he always does, which he's done for about, 196 of these things. He's telling me to get the hell out of here, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. And 200 episodes is in the books, so man, so much to say here at the end. Thank you so much, everybody's been a part of this podcast. I can't name all the guests that have been on, but basically I've only done, maybe 3 or 4 solo shows. So there's been a lot of people who have helped contribute to getting this podcast to 200 episodes and just keep it going and going and going. I had joked earlier, if you've been playing this whole thing, I did a little teaser earlier that I have done an interview that never aired. Technically, this is 201 episodes if you really want to get into the real roots of it, but that interview is in a folder on the computer here. I can't use it. I kind of feel like Tupac in that Machiavelli album, that last track called Against All Odds. He's hinting at who shot him, and he's trying to, not say the name. And then you hear him dubbed in, man, say his name, say his name. I know people are like, who is it? Who did you interview? You can't air it. I'll just say this. I never thought he was a big dummy because he was called that on something he did in the past, but he sure acted like one, and I couldn't play it. And it's gonna rot in a folder on here. Maybe someday I take something from it and use it, but I can't. It is so bad. That's the only time I ever did this, and I thought I was gonna just quit. I'm like, I can't. This is ridiculous. This is completely nuts. I don't want to get into that because that's too negative. So this is 200 episodes because that one doesn't count. All right. But I want to thank everybody who has been on this episode that were guests in the past. So let's go down the line here. You got Jayson Warner Smith, Russell Todd, Pamela Davis-Noland, Theodus Crane, Nathan Hamill, Roxanne Perez, B. Brian Blair, Kyle Farnsworth, Wordsworth, Akrobatik, Reese, Chill Will, DJ Silver Spinner, Spyder D, Chubs, DJ Real One, EC Illa, Young Z, Money B, Kool Kim, and Kool Rock Ski. Sounded like that rhymed a little bit there. Just put a beat under that. And big shout out to everybody who's been listening to this show. Big up to my guy, DJ Real One. He has played all of them, even told you that earlier. Shout out to my guy, Rudy. He always hits me back with feedback on these episodes. So I appreciate everybody who's listened to them, play them back, give me feedback on it. And let's see what the next 100 brings, right? And I definitely appreciate everybody's been a part of this thing. And I couldn't do it without great guests, and because I can't talk to myself too much. Eventually, I would just have quit. If it was just the Mark show wouldn't last. It would have been dead a long time ago. And I'd be doing something else to take up my time, playing solitaire on my phone or something. Who knows? All right. Thanks again to everybody who's been checking out the show, the Infinite Banter Podcast, 200 episodes. This episode and all the other 199, they're all available on all platforms. Find them. You heard something you liked here. Man, I want to hear more of that Akrobatik. Go find it. You want to hear more Kyle Farnsworth? Go find it. You want to hear DJ Real One 6 times? You can go find them. Maybe it's 7. You can go find them. There's all kinds of episodes out there. They're all over the place. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Infinite Banter Podcast. Rate and review the show. I can't ask you guys to do that enough. That really helps when you do that. Go on Apple Podcasts or wherever you play this show. Rate it, review it, tell them I suck, tell them I'm good, whatever. Go to super7.com/Infinite Banter Podcast or a sponsor of the show. Go ahead and buy some merch from that link, and you can give some kickback to the show. I'll put that money right back into the podcast. I'll put all those pennies right back into this thing. And definitely check out Spotify for the playlist and all the poll questions. It's really been fun doing this show, and I can't wait to do more of it. So big salute to all of you. Happy New Year's, Merry Christmas, all the holidays that you celebrate. May they be good to you and all that. As I said earlier, definitely want to dedicate this episode to Mark Beans, a.k.a. Preach. Definitely thinking about him these last few weeks, so a salute to him, and hopefully I did him some service by putting out this episode. All right, that's it. So I'll do another one of these, 201 episode, and that one's be a little less exciting probably. I'm out.
Hey, asshole, get off the road.
Being on the Infinite Banter with my man Mark has been a pleasure.